Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. It's great to see all the participants filing in. We're just going to take a minute here at the beginning to set up translation, and we'll have instructions on that soon. Okay, sorry everyone, we're just getting translation set up, but no, I can always count on Dawn in the chat. So if folks want to comment where they're calling from, we're happy to celebrate International Women's Day with so many of you. And we are going to start here in just a minute.
Okay, I am here.
Great. Hi, Carla. Okay, so now interpretation should be available. So for everyone on the call, we are so excited to have our, nope, Carla? Okay.
My assignment has not come up yet, so I cannot go to the booth to try to interpret.
Okay. Now, okay. A little technology troubleshooting for you this morning. So hi, everyone. As I was saying, we are excited to be able to offer this event for International Women's Day in both English and Spanish. So now if you can go to the globe icon, I'll post some instructions here. And choose the language that you would like to be listening in. So there are two options, either English or Spanish for today's call. And so please use that icon to be able to listen in whichever language you would like. We also will be recording this in both languages afterwards, so you can share it with your networks in either English or Spanish. So feel free to add any questions or issues in the chat if you need help with the translation. We have some folks in the background being able to help with that as we go along. So thank you everyone for the grace of starting a couple minutes late, but I am excited to welcome you all and to celebrate International Women's Day with folks all around the world. So we have some folks who are Water for People staff here in Denver, but also colleagues around the world who are joining us across the countries where Water for People works. And I'm seeing the chat, we have supporters on the line too. So it's a really great day to gather together virtually and celebrate women around the world. Here is the agenda for today. I will be our host for today's town hall. We'll start with a brief overview and welcome, trying to frame and give you all a little bit more information on the context of International Women's Day as it relates to Water for People's work, how women and girls are oftentimes disproportionately affected by the global water and sanitation crisis. Then I am very excited for you all to hear from two of our colleagues, Grace and Beatrice, to give a regional perspective of these issues and their work in Peru and Uganda. Then we'll have an opportunity for question and answer, a Q&A time. That is where you all will be interacting with the Q&A feature on Zoom. So if you go back to your control panel where you chose a translation channel, you'll also see a button that says Q&A. Feel free to be including questions there throughout the presentation. We'll be collecting them on the back end to be able to answer live with Grace and Beatrice on our panel. And so if questions come up as someone is presenting, feel free to add that there as we go. And last but not least, we'll be hearing from my colleague Daryl, who's also on the call, for some resources and really amazing opportunities for you all to continue celebrating International Women's Day, continue supporting Water for People. Great. So with that, we will jump right in. And so these next couple slides, again, are just a starter to give you all an idea of what the situation really looks like for women and girls globally. So as I said, the task of often fetching water or trying to find clean water sources falls heavily on women and girls. And so we know that the world water crisis, the global sanitation crisis, affects millions and billions of people across the globe. And so today, being International Women's Day, we want to focus specifically on how women are affected by this and what Water for People is doing to be able to support women and girls in changing these numbers and this reality. Here are some really big numbers just to contextualize what that looks like. 200 million hours a day are spent by women and girls collecting water. And so it's hard to contextualize often such a big number. And so when you look at it in terms of what that means in hours, or in this case, in earning a college degree, 35,000 women can earn a college degree every day instead of spending that time collecting water. And so there's some math that goes behind that, but pretty staggering numbers of the amount of time that is often wasted trying to fetch or find clean water when women and communities and young girls don't have access to that. And when you look at sanitation, it's an even larger number. So 266 million hours are spent every day looking for a safe place to go to the bathroom. And as some of you might know, oftentimes that can be a dangerous trip for women as well, and leads to practices that are harmful to the environment, like open defecation. And so when we look at this and we look at both water and sanitation, the thing that we come back to is that women and girls are not able to pursue careers or their education, or oftentimes just their interests and family time, because they are spending so much of their day-to-day trying to get water for their family or trying to find a dignified place to go to the bathroom. And another aspect of this too is when looking at girls in schools, a lot of times we will see young girls drop out of school when they start menstruating, because there aren't those services and education available at school to support them through that time. So again, there's a lot of ripple effects, if you will, of how women and girls are continued to be affected, not just by the immediate health risks of lack of access to water and sanitation, but really how that affects them in all aspects of their life. And so here is a really great quote, and I'll read it out loud. So just imagine those 200 million hours add up to more than 22,800 years. It's as if a woman started with her empty bucket in the Stone Age and didn't arrive home with water until 2018. So we just put this quote here as a reminder, because I think for most of us on this call, the idea that water could keep us from going to school, having a job, or providing for our families is quite foreign for us in our day-to-day. But for millions of women and young girls around the world, it really is a daily reality, and one in which Water for People is committed to changing. And so opportunities, choices, and for us, really those futures of the dreams of careers and families that they want to have often don't stand a chance against the illnesses, the negative health risks, the lost time that is often a consequence of a lack of access to clean water and sanitation. So really, these young girls in the countries where we work, in many countries around the world, are at a disadvantage from the start. So they are more likely to suffer health problems and miss school. And so Water for People, as I mentioned, is really committed to supporting women and girls to end this inequality that we see around the world. So Water for People currently works in these 9 countries here shown on the map, across Latin America, Africa, and then India and Asia. And so across these 9 countries, as I mentioned, we are committed not only to supporting women and girls, but for us, implementing the Everyone Forever model. So it's a sustainable approach, an end to the global water and sanitation crisis, and a way for these communities to have long-lasting, reliable access to water and sanitation services. So with that, as enough talking from me, I'm excited to introduce you to our first speaker, Beatriz Alvarado from Peru. So Beatriz is passionate about achieving significant and sustainable impacts around water and sanitation. She has experience in design and coordination development projects with both government and international corporate entities, as well as a master's degree in management and public health. As the national advisor on rural water and sanitation in Peru, she has generated collaborative synergies with institutions in the sanitation sector at national and subnational levels for the design and implementation of proposals and strategies. So I'm excited to pass it off to Beatriz, who will share a little bit about her own experience and the regional and local situation within Latin America and Peru for women and girls. So over to you, Beatriz.
Gracias, Julia.
Thank you, Julia. I am so happy to be here with you today on a very special day and share with you that the situation that Julia has just shared is not alien to Latin America. In a region, women and girls are most affected by the lack of sanitation services. In the case that we're going to share a concrete case with you now, that we have of a family, the case of Mercedes, who lives with her girl, the 5-year-old daughter Jimena, in the community of Chorrillo in Cascas, Peru. Before they had water in the house, she had to fetch water. She had to look for places every day, new places every day. Sometimes she would have to other houses in her community. Sometimes she had to walk many hours, and then she had to look for a hose. She had to connect the hose and then get water into her buckets. And also in the rainy season, water comes very muddy, and they were also forced to collect rainfall water. So this is the reality of many women and girls in our region in Latin America. They have to walk long distances to look for water. The girls miss school many days, and they drop out completely because they have to help their families to get water. Getting access, close access to clean, safe water, just frees the girls in their time, and they give them time to spend in school. And we have seen concrete cases of this. Having access to menstrual hygiene management resources will help girls to continue in school when they reach puberty. The programs of water and sanitation of water of people facilitate education for girls and the development of women like Jimena and Mercedes, who are now happy to have water in their homes.
En mi experiencia,
in my experience, the work with women and girls to help them to adopt hygiene practices and improve access of water sanitation in the homes is a great strategy. We need to empower women for the sanitation services are sustainable and reach an ongoing impact on people. I have seen how rewarding it is for a family to improve when women assume leadership and take on and leadership in getting water. So we count on your support for many more families to improve their situation and also improve their development. Thank you, Julia.
Thank you, Beatrice, for sharing that story and your personal experience as well. So now I'm hoping we can hear from Grace, but she was having a little bit of trouble connecting to audio. Grace, can you hear me now? Just one moment while I try to get in touch with Grace. Grace, can you hear me? Nothing yet? Grace, do you have your speakers or microphone muted? Okay, so I think we're having a little bit of audio connection issues with Grace. Grace, can you hear me? Thumbs up, maybe? No? Okay. So what I might do is we're going to work with Grace on the back end because we really would love for you all to be able to hear from Grace as well as get to ask her questions during the Q&A panel. So we'll work to do that on the back end, but we do have some content and a video to share with you in the meantime. So I'll go ahead and give Grace her warm introduction, of course, wishing she could hear me share it, but at least getting to share some of Grace's background with you all. Grace is calling in from our Uganda country program, and Grace has 16 years of experience in WASH programming. For Water for People, she worked with Catholic Relief Services. She has now been at Water for People for the last 6 years. Is currently working as Senior Program Officer at Water for People in Uganda. Her passion for addressing menstrual hygiene management in WASH, or water, sanitation, and hygiene, is out of a belief without menstrual hygiene management considerations, WASH programs can't widen or can widen as a result the gender disparities as we seek impact. So I really love this perspective, and again, hoping that you all will get to hear from Grace here in a minute to share more about why it is so critical in the approaches we take in our programming. We're able to include not only women and girls, but this menstrual hygiene management approach. So I'll kind of continue on before we share our video. So as I mentioned, menstrual hygiene management is a core piece of Water for People's work, and one that we're excited to have a video clip from a community visit to a school in Uganda, really highlight how these services transform schools, and how Water for People partners with schools to be able to ensure that girls can stay in school even when on their period and accessing these services. So many girls around the world drop out of school when they hit puberty if there aren't menstrual hygiene resources like private stalls and toilets, hand washing stations, and in this image, menstrual pads to be able to use at school. So Water for People, in partnership with schools in the 9 countries where we work, create hygiene curriculum to support teachers and students who often lead their sanitation clubs or set up hygiene corners in their classrooms. So we want to ensure that the schools where we work have hand washing stations, private and clean toilets, and also the menstrual hygiene education to be able to support girls and also educate boys while they're in school too. Now, as I mentioned, we're excited to share a clip if you'll travel virtually with us to Uganda. This for folks who engaged with our last virtual impact tour. It's been an exciting opportunity that has the silver lining of COVID, if you will, to be able to travel virtually with you all to the countries where we work. And so here we're going to hear from some school teachers and other community leaders who have assisted our work in Uganda to bring menstrual hygiene management services and toilets to schools.
Integra Primary School is located in Luka district, which is in the eastern region of Uganda. It's one of 2 schools that has benefited from Water for People support in the past year. This school was selected through a couple of engagements, assessments that were done, and the assessments showed that they were really in need of support in terms of sanitation and hygiene. We do annual surveys, and out of those surveys, we're able to identify the most needy locations. So in Integra Primary School, we have supported the school with 2 blocks of 5-stance drainable latrines. We have a 5-stance drainable latrine for boys and the 5-stance drainable latrine for the girls. The 5-stance drainable latrine for the girls comes with a washroom, and what is unique about it is that it comes with an incinerator that is attached to the washroom, such that if a girl has a pad, she doesn't need to get out of the bathroom and to go and dispose the pad. She only opens a small sluice gate in the washroom, and she's able to throw the pad in the incinerator, which can be burnt later. So this offers privacy. No one will know that a girl has, she's in her menstruation period, and therefore she's throwing a pad.
Before the intervention of the Water for People came into the school, the sanitation and wash program was really very poor because we had only one borehole at school, which was shared by the school community and the school. Then we didn't have the washing facilities. But when the Water for People came, it managed to construct 2 block latrines, one for girls with an incinerator, and then another one for boys. And it has also provided us with the wash facilities, like 2 tanks, the jerry cans, the moppers, and the brushes. It has also provided the washing taps, 2 washing taps, which has helped us to ease the program of washing our hands. This is a mass hand washing facility which can help the children to wash their hands. If there is only one child, you can use one tap like this one. But if there are many, you can use even a second tap. Say, for example, about 10 children can wash their hands easily and quickly at once. So this one has got a stance for the physical people with disability. It has got a stand here where somebody can sit comfortably here. Then we have got also other stances here, which has got a settle pan. We also have the hand washing facility here. If it's only one person, can use this one. And if there are many, they can use these ones to wash their hands quickly and go back to school, to class.
We're here to interact with the school administration and also to look at the facilities that Water for People supported the school with. This is one of two schools that we have supported in the year 2020-2021 with Wash in Schools project. The school has benefited from the construction of a 5-stand drainable latrine for the girls and a mass hand washing facility. The school has also benefited from through formation and training of school health clubs, and also we have trained the school management and school PTA, that is the Parents Teacher Association members, on the operation and management of wash facilities. What is the school intending to do about the condition of the latrine for the boys? We understand there are many boys. The girls have just received a new block, but for the boys are now using an old block which needs a facelift, and also another block is needed to support the existing one. So what plans does the school have towards that?
Okay, thank you so much. We appreciate that challenge, and we have already informed the district authorities about that issue. And in response, the sub-county chief is organizing some fund to help us to construct a new pit latrine for the boys. So that is our old latrine facility, which was shared by the girls and the boys. Right now we have a separate pit latrine for the girls.
Now at Kasubi Zone 3 Chico, where we are going to witness a emptying of.
Great. Well, that was a little bit of a highlight into our work in 2 schools in Uganda. As you can see, you got a little bit of a sneak peek into some of the other visits. One focused on sanitation from that Uganda virtual impact tour I mentioned. That's something that is on our YouTube channel, and you can travel with us virtually again and watch those recordings if you're interested. So now, as I mentioned, one of our favorite parts of these town halls are our Q&A sessions. And so we hope that you'll take advantage of this opportunity in the toolbar on the bottom of your screen. Click on that Q&A button and feel free to submit questions for our panelists on International Women's Day, the role of women and girls, or on Water for People's work in general. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen. I think we're still unfortunately having audio issues with Grace, so we hope she'll be able to figure out a way to join us. But we do still have Beatrice on the line and would love to be able to get her perspective on some of your questions. And Beatrice, so you're not alone. Hopefully I can add some color, and I see lots of Water for People staff in the attendee list. And so I know we can probably have an active chat as well. So to start us off with, Beatrice, you spoke a little bit about this earlier in the presentation, but really at a high level and from your work in Peru, why is it important to engage women in changes in their own communities? So when we see women as leaders, what oftentimes are the ways that they engage and really galvanize their community where they live?
Ujú. Gracias, Julia.
Thank you,
Definitivamente,
Julia. Yes, definitely, women are taking on very important roles in the communities. Not only are they in charge of their households, but also they take on roles in terms of conservation, utilization of resources in the communities, and leadership as well. So that makes them leading role players in the development in their communities, and they work so that they can have equal opportunities, and working on their behalf to get equal opportunities is foundational. They are the foundation of the development of the families and in their communities. So we have some studies in Peru that allow us to get some evidence that having more engagement, for example, of women in
servicios de aguas y
the water and sanitation committee management makes these committees to provide better services,
puedan
and makes these committees to sustain over the time their services. So definitely there is a very important role played by the women, not only in Peru, but I think that in all Latin America.
Great, thank you. And a really nice segue into another question. So you mentioned briefly committees. And so in your time at Water for People, have you seen the amount of women in those volunteer water committees increase? What has that relationship been like with women leaders and Water for People in your role?
Mira, en
Look,
Perú, por norma,
in Peru, by regulation, women have to take part in the water committees. The boards of directors have 5 members, and 2 of them must be women. That is in our regulations, in our law, but not necessarily are favorable conditions for women to be part of these committees. Nationwide, we have over 26,000 committees.
28,000
I think that we are just reaching 28,000 water committees or water boards in the rural areas, and only 46% of them include a woman in their boards. And this incorporation is still formal. It's just because to comply with the regulations, not because there is an active participation of these women in the boards. In fact, we only see that only 6% of the water boards have a woman as a chair. So the challenge is big, as you can see. And that leads us to reflect that it's not enough that it's considered by law, but there is a very strong work to strengthening, to capacity building and empowering women so that women can take on these challenges, and that this is reflected in the well-being of their families as well, and the well-being of the communities as well.
Thank you, Beatrice. That's such a great perspective, not only in terms of the laws that already exist, but growth that is still needed, right, to truly engage and empower women beyond just having that law. For folks who are following along with the chat, Grace, again, is unable to support the Q&A or participate via video and audio. She's answering some questions in the chat. So to this first question I asked of why it is important to engage women in the change for their own communities, Grace wrote, "It is vital that we engage women and children in order to eliminate disparities in access to wash services between men and women for boys and girls. And in schools, we do this by ensuring that we empower the children, parents, and teachers to ensure that girls access menstrual hygiene management facilities and information to be able to remain in school to completion of their time there. So a great addition from Grace to complement what we saw in that video about the importance of having those services and facilities accessible during school. So Beatrice, to your last comment, I want to touch on one question that is answered or that was asked in the Q&A feature. So in terms of the barriers that still exist for women, so you mentioned that, the law alone is not enough to really ensure full engagement and participation. Are there other barriers that are challenges to the empowerment of women, and even specifically, do the men in the communities where we work or in leadership pose any challenges to the empowerment of women in your experience?
Sí, yo creo que
Yes, I think that there's still
cultura
there is
machista,
a macho culture, especially in the rural areas, that needs to be discussed, analyzed, dealt with the men in the community as well. So that's where
programas que tenemos
at the program level that the level of the programs that we have in Water for People, we deal with, we discuss these things with the people assemblies in the rural communities so that we can ensure an equal distribution of roles between men and women in the community, so that we can also ensure the importance that allows
protagonismo
that
dado
women
que
are
es
allowed to be given a more important role in the community, because they are the main users of water in the houses and the community. So the possibility to discuss with them that there should be special spaces with the women to have more chances to listen to them is one of the strategies we're working on in Water for People. So we also suppose for us to differentiate our strategies so that women have the opportunity to talk, to get trained, to get empowered, and to contribute in the best possible way to the management of the services. So yes, there's still several cultural barriers in terms of language in some areas of our country, and that need also from the institutions to differentiate their strategies. We cannot tackle all with one single method. We have to contextualize and tailor our methodologies so that women can be developed in their capacities, they can develop their capacities, and they can get trained.
Thank you, Beatrice. That is such an important perspective to have, that it's not one type of single strategy that is going to engage everyone. And I think even something that we discuss as an organization at Water for People is how to communicate across cultures, across gender norms, and to be able to make sure that we're addressing those differences that exist not only across different countries, but within even the unique cultures of one country. And I think that has to do a lot with then what is perpetuated in terms of gender norms in the different countries where we work. So thank you for that. And then we had another question asked specifically on estimated cost for a system that we saw in that video. So that was the hand washing latrine facilities in a school. So Grace said in the chat that the cost is about $12,000 US for that. And I think specific to the context in Uganda, as you can imagine, some of those materials and construction costs can differ across different countries. And then Grace's comment on, she added something in for this point of kind of men posing challenges or the barriers that still exist to women in leadership roles. And Grace said, inherently it's not a problem, but however, in areas where the education about the need for equity and inclusion isn't there, that is where we see them really posing challenges. So she said in a way that means, and many times in schools, male students are a source of stigma for girls while they're on their periods. And I think that some of this, if we have participants and supporters joining in from the US, is not that much different, right, from the stigma that still exists around these things for young girls. So the education that's needed to be able to empower women to talk about their periods, but also empower that to be conversation among all students. And so Grace added that that's why Water for People reaches out to both boys and girls with menstrual hygiene management messages to make boys appreciate and understand that menstruation is a normal process, and to really support the needs of girls while they're going through that. Okay, and so one last question that I'll take, and we still have some remaining, so thank you everyone, and sorry that we're running a little low on time, is one that's a little bit more general, I think is still top of mind for everyone. So what, Beatrice, have you seen in Peru has been the impact of COVID-19 on the communities where Water for People works, and has that influenced, COVID-19 influenced our work in Peru specifically?
Bueno, mira,
Well,
favorablemente digo yo, entre comillas,
I would say that from a favorable point of view, there have been some COVID cases in the rural communities, but most of these cases have happened in the capital towns of the districts. The rural communities have also seen COVID cases, but not as many as in the cities, where there are more people concentrated and more movement of people. Our work has been affected by COVID, but in a sense that it was hard to reach the households, the homes, because there was the fear that we might carry the virus with us. So we were not able to develop activities, face-to-face activities, events, and during the first and second stage of the pandemic. So now these activities are reopening little by little, but there's still distrust, and it's well ingrained. So this is something that we are dealing with little by little in a diligent way, and with some meetings, okay, but we're taking good care of all the protocols needed. So what we've seen is that this has brought about an interesting migratory process. Many people living in the capital cities of the provinces have gone back to the rural communities because of lack of work or unemployment. So what we see is that the rural communities are now receiving families that are coming back home. So we are coming across with this type of processes. So we have to help these migrant families to access the services. So now we are dealing with this situation, and there are new families that are requesting to access the services, and that is not always possible because of budget projects, or because we lack water as well. So little by little, we will be able to see the impact of the pandemic on the services management. But for now, these are some of the phenomena that we've seen along the way. Thankfully, we were able to control them. So there is an interesting percentage of people who are already vaccinated. So that makes it possible for us to come back to our activities. And a key factor is that it has become that the populations have water, and the availability of water service in their homes to face the pandemic has become a key factor, and that is becoming more and more important, not only at school levels, where now schools also need water and sanitation, and it has become a government priority, and it is a task that we are all contributing to, so that we can have a safe return to school for children. So we are working all together to get better conditions for our people.
Thank you, Beatrice. I think something that I have been really proud of Water for People and of course other organizations too is prioritizing the health and safety, of our staff, of community members. And so Grace added a comment too of sometimes that results in shifting targets, right? Elongated timeframes for attaining our original targets that we set for services, but knowing that the safety and health of our staff and the communities where we work is still the most important. And so I appreciate you sharing that, Beatrice, and of course how that has halted certain activities, but has also really brought to light the need for these services. So I know we are already 1 minute over. Time certainly goes by very fast on these. So Beatrice, thank you so much for serving as our panelist. Grace, thank you for feverishly typing some answers out to us. I know it's a different way to engage in Q&A. So I appreciate everyone's flexibility. And just to close us off, if you can give Daryl a couple minutes, she's going to share more opportunities where you can come in.
Yeah, thanks, Julia. And I will try to keep my comments brief because I know we're a little over. So first of all, I want to thank Julia, Grace, and Beatrice for that amazing presentation. You all brought such great insight and experience to this town hall. And thank you so much for being here with us today. And Grace, thank you for bearing with us through your technical difficulties. I also want to thank all of our supporters on this call for joining us. And I want to let you know that just by joining our community and hearing about the challenges women and girls are facing around the world, you are taking the first step to create change. So truly, thank you so much for being a supporter of Water for People and for taking time out of your morning to celebrate International Women's Day with us. So if, like me, after hearing Grace and Beatrice speak about their experiences, you're super on fire to know what you can do to create more change around the world for women and girls, I'm going to share a couple of ideas with you on how you can take that next step. The first thing I want to share with you is our World Water Classic happening this fall. As we heard earlier, women and girls around the world walk an average of 6K each day to fetch water used for drinking, bathing, and cooking. You can help change that by participating in the World Water Classic. You can choose to run or walk a 6K, a 60K, or get creative and come up with something unique to you. As a thank you for attending this town hall, you can use the code EARLY2022 for 10% off your registration now through the end of March. And another way that you can help create change for women and girls is by starting your own ripple effect fundraiser. And there's a couple of different ways you can do this. You can do an individual fundraiser and focus on something like donating your birthday or special event, doing a race or athletic challenge in memory of someone special, or just be as creative as you like. You can also do a team fundraiser, which is really great for those competitive folks out there. You can have a main team page. So say, for example, your office is the team and your coworkers would then create individual pages and you would sort of compete to see who can raise the most money. We've seen this work really well for things like marathons, relays, or obstacle races. And it's worth noting that your company might already have a ripple effect page set up. So check it out today to see if you can get involved there. And in closing, thank you so much for taking some time today to learn more about how water and sanitation access affects women and girls around the world. We love having events with partners like you, and thank you so much for being here. There are always ways to get involved, and we hope you'll further your impact by participating in the World Water Classic or the Ripple Effect.
So thank you again to everyone. Thanks for the extra 5 minutes. Beatrice and Grace, thank you for the perspective and the work that you do day to day. And to our supporters, thank you for joining and being a part of our work at Water for People. Happy International Women's Day. I hope you all have a great rest of your week.